Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming or Battlefield 3 related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in a future episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below or by sending me a YouTube message. So the first question for today comes in from Parker, who asks, I was wondering if you think that there needs to be some type of spectator system in Battlefield 4 like Codcaster for Black Ops 2. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Yeah, I am completely on board for a spectator mode in Battlefield 4, and if DICE wants to delve on into the competitive scene, they want to get into the esports aspect of everything, then they really do need to add this into their upcoming title. Not only does it make it a lot more fun to watch a match because you're not just watching it through one player, you can kind of see what's going on the entire battlefield, but it would also be a really cool tool that people could use to get better in the game. A coach or a captain of a team could watch the progression of a match, see where people are screwing up, and let everyone know what they were doing wrong. A spectator mode would be fantastic, but what I don't want, and some of you may disagree with me, is a theater mode like they do in the Call of Duty franchise for the next Battlefield title. And that's for a bunch of reasons, but the main reason is that I think that a theater mode in a game like this would just lag it, not to the point where it's unbearable, but if you play in any of the recent Call of Duties, a lot of people talk about magic bullets and talking about getting hit from behind objects where they're clearly not in the view of their enemy, but they're still dying. And one of the reasons is because the theater mode is always on. It's always recording it's capturing everything that's going on in a match, and that delays things, and it creates kind of this lag that everyone experiences, and I don't want that in the next Battlefield title. Especially if these maps are going to be gigantic, they're gonna have to capture everything that's going on at that one time. And I know people still would really like a theater mode in Battlefield 4 because the montages, the montages would be fantastic. I mean, people make some pretty insane things in the Call of Duty franchise, but imagine that with like a Frostbite 2 engine. It would be phenomenal. But even still, I don't want to have a theater mode in the game because I think it would lag the system, and in general it would make for a worse experience. Because it's recording all the time, we're going to experience more lag, and we get more magic bullets. In Battlefield 3, we already kind of had a problem, especially at the start of the game when it was first released, when we'd get shot behind objects all the time, and that's just because of the bad netcode. And just imagine that compounded on with lag from a theater system, and I'm sure a lot of people would be upset by that. So really cool idea, but I just don't think theater would work unless they have some sort of weird, crazy workaround that creates no lag by any means. Then of course I'm all for it. But spectator mode, yeah, absolutely. I think it would add a lot to Battlefield 4. It would make it more competitive in the esports scene, and in general, it would also let people make some pretty awesome montages with their friends, which is what a lot of people do anyways. So the next question for today comes in from Bio, who asks, do you think that premium for Battlefield 3 was worth buying or not, considering that we get little things like camos, assignments, and dog tags, which really aren't that great considering the price of it, and the DLCs, which should have been implemented in the basic game that you first bought, and no promise for an early Battlefield 4 beta access? So you sound a little entitled. I mean, when Battlefield 3 first came out in October 2011, it was a complete game. It had a single player, it had a co-op, and it has a multiplayer that people still enjoy and love to this day. And for $60, that's a complete game. And you're not going to get any game out there that's going to give you really any more content than that. I mean, Battlefield really has delivered on in that front. You could have played the single player for a lot of hours, you could have played the co-op for a couple hours, and probably you've spent hundreds of hours on the multiplayer. I know that I spent a good amount of time on the multiplayer even before we got our first expansion pack, and if that's all we got for $60, I would have been completely content. I mean, I would have been a little annoyed because I like to have some variety and I like to switch up my maps every once in a while, and to have DLCs would be awesome, but if that's all that DICE gave us, I would have been fine. That would have been a great Battlefield game. But DICE said no. They wanted to continue to bring us more content. They wanted to give us more DLCs, and that's where Battlefield 3 Premium comes in. And in all honesty, you do not deserve the content from those DLCs with your original purchase of Battlefield 3. You can argue that the premium service's smaller aspects, such as the dog tags and the assignments, are nothing special, but it is giving you a deal. And the main reason why everyone, I'm pretty sure why everyone spent $50 on the service was because they were gonna save some money. If you bought all of them individually, it would add up to a little bit more. While it's not a lot more, people love Battlefield. I love Battlefield, and I wanted to support DICE and support the developers, so I put down $50, said, hey, I trust you. Hopefully you guys are going to give us some amazing DLCs, and for the most part, they have delivered on that. But to think that you deserve all of that DLC content with your original purchase of Battlefield 3 when that was a complete game is absolutely absurd. But to get back to your question, do I think that Battlefield 3 Premium is worth it? For me, absolutely. I saved some money. I got all the content that I wanted, at least so far, and we have one more to go. I thought it was $50 well spent. But for someone else who isn't really all that into large maps, maybe they only like some aspects of Battlefield 3, then maybe selecting one or two of the DLCs would be a better choice instead of spending, the entire $50. It's really going to come down to personal preference at that point. So the final question for today comes in from Nicolas Cage. Well done grabbing that. What should melee attacks be in Battlefield 4? More like Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, or even something like COD or Crisis. So I honestly would really like it to be like Battlefield Bad Company 2. I like that system. It wasn't crazy panic knife like in Crisis or Call of Duty. Crisis, it's more of panic punch, but it still gets the job done really quickly. But I thought that that was a really nice balance where if you got into a tight spot, you could still knife someone in the face, but it wasn't overpowered, where if you felt like if you were in those situations, a gun would still finish them off fast enough before they could go through that slower animation compared to like the Call of Duty franchise. I do like the knife animation in Battlefield 3. I think it suits its purpose because they clearly did not want people panic knifing, and it's kind of a humiliating way to take someone out, and I do like that place in Battlefield 3. But if I was going to take a side, I would choose Battlefield Bad Company 2's system and the gameplay that came from that. So those are all the questions that I'm going to be answering for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you would like to submit your own question for a future one, you can do so by leaving a comment down below or by sending me a YouTube message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.